Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Sparkin over Broncos, the show where we spark conversation about our Denver Broncos. I am your host, Gage Madrid. Today, I want to talk about a really fun prospect in the 2022 NFL Draft in Houston defensive back Marcus Jones. But before we talk about Jones, be sure to leave a like on this video, as well as subscribe and get pinged with notifications by ringing the bell so you don't miss an upload. We are trying to reach 500 subscribers in the next 2 weeks leading up to the NFL Draft, so I would really appreciate you helping us out by hitting the subscribe button. Jones enters the NFL Draft as a 23-year-old redshirt senior. He committed to play football at Troy following graduation from Enterprise High School in Alabama. Jones possessed a skill set not only as a defensive back, but also as a return specialist. In Jones' freshman season at Troy, he earned Sun Belt Conference Freshman of the Year, as well as second-team All-Conference honors as a return specialist. In that season, Jones returned 30 kickoffs for 879 yards and 3 touchdowns, along with 14 punts for 121 yards. As a DB, he recorded 2 interceptions as a freshman, returning one of them for a touchdown. As a sophomore, Jones was named first-team All-Sun Belt as a return specialist after returning 23 kickoffs for 583 yards and 1 touchdown. He was also named to the second team as a DB after recording 47 tackles, 8 PBUs, and 1 interception. Following his sophomore season at Troy, Jones opted to transfer to the University of Houston. Jones was forced to redshirt the 2019 season per NCAA transfer policies. He returned to action in 2020 for the Cougars' pandemic-shortened season. In 2020, Jones once again earned first-team All-Conference honors in the AAC as a return specialist. In 7 games for Houston, Jones returned 17 punts for 337 yards and 1 touchdown. On defense, he recorded 24 tackles, 4 passes defended, and 1 pick. Last season, Jones had a career year for the Cougars in his redshirt senior season, recording 47 tackles on defense, along with a career-high 13 passes defended and 5 interceptions to boot. He also brought his usual production as a return specialist. He averaged a whopping 34 yards per return on 15 kickoffs with 2 touchdowns. As a punt returner, he posted career-high marks, returning 26 punts for 374 yards and 2 additional touchdowns. Houston also believed that his electricity could translate on the offensive side of the ball, so he saw some snaps as a receiver as well. Jones recorded 113 scrimmage yards on offense, along with yet another touchdown last year. Jones' versatility is one of the things that makes him such a fun player. That versatility was recognized last season as Jones received the Paul Hornig Award for the nation's most versatile player. Jones is a player who really makes you excited when you watch his tape. He has speed and acceleration that jump out at you right away. Although I cannot seem to find a 40-yard dash time listed for him, I imagine that it would be somewhere in the 4.3s, if not even faster. Unlike some other speedy players who come into the NFL on a yearly basis, Jones' speed actually translates into his play on the field. He has top-tier acceleration, so he can reach top speed at a wicked rate, which gives him a leg up on his competition both in coverage and as a return specialist. To pair with his high-end speed and acceleration, Jones has excellent hip fluidity, so he can maintain a high level of speed while changing direction. This bodes very well for him in man coverage, as it makes it easier to stay tacked onto some of the more fluid receivers in the league one-on-one. Jones displays a very high football IQ, and he showcases it in zone coverage. He makes good decisions in zone coverage on a consistent basis, which is absolutely critical to success in zone-heavy schemes similar to what Denver runs. As you would imagine, he also possesses excellent closing speed, so when he keys into where the ball is going, you will usually see him fly into wreck shop. He also had a ball-hawking mentality to his game, and you will see him smartly play the ball with grittiness and physicality. Unfortunately, something that we do have to bring up when discussing Marcus Jones is his size. He measured in at just 5'8" and 185 pounds. Although he certainly does not play like his size, there are certainly times where his small frame puts him at a disadvantage. Sometimes you will see bigger receivers go up and moss him simply because he lacks the height and length to go up and high point the ball. Although Houston mostly played him outside at boundary corner, mostly for the reason listed above, I have serious concerns about putting Jones outside against bigger, more physical receivers at the NFL level. I feel that the best role for Jones at the NFL level is inside at the nickel position. I feel that with a bit of time to marinate, he could be one of the better nickels in the business. Marcus Whitman, aka that franchise guy, whose draft evaluations I highly respect, had K'Wan Williams as the player comparison for Marcus Jones. That comparison does make some sense as they are certainly built similarly, but when I watch Marcus Jones, I do see K'Wan Williams, but K'Wan Williams with rabies. Who better to learn under than a player who has a similar play style as you? K'Wan Williams is currently under a 2-year contract here in Denver, so ideally Williams would hold down the fort at the nickel position for the next 2 seasons, and then we will have Marcus Jones waiting in the wings when Williams' contract is up. At the same time, Marcus Jones would be able to contribute immediately as a return specialist in his rookie season. Return specialist is a position that has been a revolving door for the Broncos since Trendon Holiday way back in the day, if we're being honest. Since 2019, the Broncos' primary punt returner has been Deontay Spencer, whose play was certainly nothing to write home about. The team elected to move on from Spencer this offseason, so I feel very strongly that the Broncos are going to try to address return specialist at some point in this year's draft. Jones' speed, acceleration, and shiftiness translate very well as a return specialist. He also has very strong hands, having only muffed 1 ball in his final 3 seasons in college. When Marcus Jones has the ball in his hands, it is an explosive play waiting to happen. He's incredible at making guys miss in open space, and sometimes his small frame simply gets lost in all of the chaos that is going on during a return. As much as I feel that Marcus Jones will make a strong impact in the NFL as a DB, I feel that he has the chance to make an even stronger impact in the return game. Another way that Jones could see the field as a rookie are in dime packages or packages with 6 defensive backs. The Broncos figure to be in dime packages quite a bit in this defense under new coordinator Ejiro Evero, and currently, in my opinion, the team is lacking a sufficient 6 defensive back aside from perhaps Caden Stearns. Drafting Marcus Jones would fill 2 massive long-term needs for the team, all while simultaneously being cost-effective by getting him under a rookie contract for the first 4 seasons. As far as when Marcus Jones will actually be drafted, he is a guy who figures to go mid to late day 2, if not early day 3. I have even seen scouts give him as high as a mid-second round grade. If there are scouts out there that feel that way, you have to imagine that there is at least one team out there that shares the same opinion about Marcus Jones. As of recording this video, the Broncos currently possess 5 picks in the top 120, picks 64, 75, 96, 115, and 116. Realistically, with as much as Jones' stock is rising, striking distance for Marcus Jones is probably going to be in the pick 75 to 96 range. Depending on how the draft board falls for the Broncos, I could easily see Marcus Jones being the best player available at a position of need at pick 75. I legitimately worry that a team may try to pounce on him if the Broncos try to let him fall to them at pick 96. Another option could be the Broncos trading down from pick 75 to somewhere around the early to mid 80s if they do not feel comfortable taking Marcus Jones at pick 75. The Broncos currently are lacking draft capital for the 2023 draft, so perhaps they could look to recoup some additional ammo for next offseason and then hope that Marcus Jones makes it to them in the 80s. So at the end of the day, I feel that Marcus Jones is one of the most fun players in this year's draft class, and is a player who certainly has potential to make a massive impact in multiple different ways. Who knows, maybe an NFL team out there will also try to give Marcus Jones some snaps on offense just like Houston did, because he is just that special when the ball is in his hands. Overall, I am definitely a big fan of Marcus Jones and would love to see him in the orange and blue. But of course, that is just my opinion. Let me know your thoughts on Marcus Jones in the comment section below, Broncos Country. I would really love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a like on this video, as well as subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss another video. We are trying to hit 500 subscribers before the NFL draft, so I would really appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Also, give me a follow on Twitter at Gage Madrid NFL for more coverage of our Denver Broncos as well as the NFL in general. And for now, this has been another episode of Sparkin Over Broncos, the show where we spark conversation about our Denver Broncos. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.